Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for putting the proposal forward. I don't know who's had a chance to read it. I know that Veronica has. I did share it in the group, as you can see, Charlotte, and I read your responses, so thank you very much for that. We did share the document with all of the to-do lists, things to do, and I got various feedback from that. I'm not sure how much further we are down the line of what needs to be in a DAO or what doesn't need to be in a DAO. But as you've sent the proposal and brought it back, I'm going to let you guys sort of lead this call, if that's okay. And Veronica, I invite you to step in and ask questions. I mean, everyone, absolutely, but I just know that Veronica's been more interactive with me. So I definitely want to make sure, Veronica, that you feel comfortable just to come in. This is a decentralized call, so.
That's fine, that's fine. I just hope nobody's going to get upset if I ask questions, you know,
I'll get upset if you don't.
So I need to understand.
No, definitely. Just anytime as I'm going through the proposal, if you have any questions, feel free just to drop them in and we can give some answers. And then was everybody here last week, or should I do a quick intro to me and the way of the DAO? All right, I'll do a really quick one, and then Nicholas can give a really quick one as well. Sure. So I'm Charlotte Malkin. I'm originally from the US, but I've been traveling around the world for a number of years and ended up in Denmark, but now Lisbon. I started my career in Washington for a member of Foreign Affairs and Financial Services before jumping over to lobbying. I got a bit disillusioned in that whole space and then ended up in development as I was traveling. Which eventually led me to blockchain technology. I joined a Danish startup called Hive Online, and they were using blockchain for financial inclusion of women's savings groups and agricultural cooperatives, both in South America and in sub-Saharan Africa. And if you look at the way these groups are structured, they are structured like DAOs. So that kind of what kickstarted me into the DAO space. And I met Bridget in Denver. We were both in the Her DAO Scholarship. We did a presentation together at the Hacker House, and I've been in the Bigger Pie community. I was introduced by my mentor, Sophie, about 1.5 years ago. And yeah, excited to be here.
I can also do a brief introduction for those that wasn't here last time. So my name is Nicholas, and I've been working with blockchain for 4 years full-time. I've been an entrepreneur for the past 10 years. Basically all my previous experience combined led me up to working with DAOs, and that was a big epiphany when I realized that these online communities, you can work with anywhere in the world and get paid to do that work, what you feel like doing. And I really had this feeling that it would go into the whole thing about feeling fulfilled as a person, and that's what gives me the drive to help others also feel fulfilled as a person. I've been living in Switzerland. Now I also live in Lisbon. I've been working a lot with DeFi and community building in general. I built the biggest non-profit blockchain community in Scandinavia. I helped co-found for back in 2016. So I have a lot of experience within this, and naturally, I went into DAO space, and then I found Charlotte, and you know, then we just started this up alongside some other cool guys.
All right, and to give a brief intro to the way of the DAO. So the way of the DAO is a community of guides, and our mission is to help accelerate the adoption of DAOs and to help communities use the technology in the best way for them. So I'm gonna share the screen here. Let's see. Is it this one?
Yeah.
This.
And Gaia, hi, nice to see you, Alex. Gaia, please feel free to step in with your experience and your knowledge as it's appropriate on this as well.
Can everybody see the screen and the proposal?
I can.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, great. So just some of the background, we did have one community call or quick call where we did an introduction to the way of the DAO about 2 weeks ago. And this proposal is a result of that preliminary call. So what we're proposing for the bigger pie is to go through the community mapping and assessment that's called for us embarking on the way of the DAO. And this is a course that takes 10 hours of consultancy, where we go through some of the biggest considerations that DAOs face or communities face when they're looking to become a DAO. So it starts off with just general onboarding to the way of the DAO and how DAOs work.
One moment. Veronica,
Spraying and fumigating.
Veronica, darling, can you mute?
Yes.
I can't hear.
And when you
Right, sorry, carry on, Charlotte.
Yeah, okay. So it starts off with just a general onboarding to the way of the DAO and who we are, as well as an introduction to DAOs and how DAOs work and where they've evolved from for any members that might not have that technical background to begin with. Then we'll kick off with the way of the DAO methodology and have a presentation where the bigger pie community, and I know Bridget, you've done a lot of work in the mission and the mandate of the bigger pie, just a space to present those materials to us so that we could get the full vision, though for the most part, I think I already have this and have been looking at them. Then we'll go on with the social and community mapping, where we look at things like the mission, the vision, community building, communications, things like how to, I know you already have quite a big Telegram group, but community calls, how to build the community, onboarding and offboarding, and building up partnerships. A big component of this is also looking at the sustainability of the DAO and how it can make funds to sustain itself in the future, or if that's not selected, to be more of a grants DAO and distribution. So building sustainability into the core of it. We'll then go into a technical mapping where we look at kind of the different chains, different tooling available to match the mandate and the social vision of the community in the next phase. Governance is pretty much the be all and end all of the community and the organization. So we'll take a big portion of the time to develop the governance structures, which can be implemented both on and off chain in later steps. And in the last sort of section, we'll look at developing a customized token infrastructure to fit the needs of the bigger pie. After the 10 hours of guidance or consultancy sessions, we'll do an issuance of a recommendations report off of all of the information that was gathered and all the decisions that have been made by the community, and present the findings of that report. It should also be said, though, that the sections and the workshops and consultancy areas, they're modified for the needs. So if you guys already have a really good communications in the Telegram group, we'll put more focus on the technical mapping or streamlining the governance and things like that. And there is also included within this, in addition to the guidance sessions, sort of side missions that we've developed so that the community can build things like a pitch deck, a white paper, and a decentralization roadmap, as a lot of the communities that are DAOs start off as pretty centralized core team and then decentralize the decision making out over time. So with that, I'll open it up to questions if anybody has any. And Nicholas, go ahead and jump in as well if you would like, and we can go into the sort of.
I think the main point that's not really stated in the contract here is that we need to pinpoint exactly what you guys need, like what do you have, and then where is it we need to go in and help fill out what is needed to become a DAO. And this is essentially what this process is about.
I have one very quick question, and then I'm happy to hand over to Veronica. Next is when you say about the communications, I think informally we seem to have had conversations that suggest that Telegram isn't going to be the best place when we move to a DAO, and even regardless of what we do, that something like a Discord channel would be good, because of all the different projects that we've got, people can have visibility on what they are and choose to come into those groups and be active in them, and we can be much more organized in those conversations than just everything in the one Telegram. So in terms of the setting up the Discord and managing channels, is that part of the communications coordination that you would offer, or is that outside of the scope?
That's right. So Discord is a big part of it. It's all about taking your community from Telegram down to Discord, and then you want to optimize it as much as possible. So we will go into this, but again, it's a matter of what is most needed for you guys.
Yeah, understood. Do you mind stop sharing your screen so we can see people as they ask the question?
Yeah, for sure. Let's.
Okay, cool.
Oh, no, another one. Are you sure?
I've done it.
Nope.
That's fine.
All right.
I've done it.
Great.
Wonderful. Veronica, would you like to speak? Ask first up. Oh, she's on mute. Well done. I put you on mute as well. I don't know if you know that I put you on mute. She might still be.
Yeah, I know you. Yeah, I know. Sorry. I had someone coming to do something in the house, and I stopped my camera because I'm actually in the garden right now.
Oh, nice.
That is
Kind
nice.
of. Yeah, it is. But,
Oh, show us. We don't mind.
Yeah, exactly.
okay. I would have Tumblr. So, just a second. So, I think my question is, I'm not very familiar with technicalities and all of that. Let's call it, I'm not that technical. However, I would like to know if what you're offering, okay, so I'm in Portugal, Algarve, so yeah.
Very nice.
How are you? We're in Portugal. We just moved here.
Okay, well, I moved here 6 months ago. So
That's
there we
nice.
go. And what I wanted to know, okay, when so you do the mapping, which is great. I understand what mapping is. I used to be a consultant, it's fine. Then recommendations, when you say recommendations, do you mean like, okay, you should use this tool, or do you have a proprietary solution?
So in terms of the recommendations, is basically what is the findings that we have done, where we assessed that you guys need the most assistance, and then what have we done there. And then it's basically the recommendations is also the next steps. So that would be pointing to the right tools, and we might even showcase these tools in this process as well. The next steps would most likely be to conduct like a deployment, like prototype deployment, but it's highly dependent on what kind of governance you guys see is needed and how you actually want it. So it's highly dependent on these sort of initial steps. That's basically based on the input from the community.
Okay.
I'm going to take it next.
Yeah, I understand. When it comes to input from the community, so that I understand, we are talking about the 10 people that, it was mentioned in the proposal, just 10 people, not the 1,000 women waiting for them to answer or anything like that.
So the process initially would be a bit like a design thinking process, user-centric process. So it will be a bit like, we work with post-it notes and we all align on the values and all of the information. And of course, it's a bit more fast and effective to do if you only work with sort of, those who are most active in the community, like for instance, the core contributors. However, that can of course be taken up, and that can be homework and so on, where you can scale it out to the broader community, which might be thousands of women.
Yeah, I understand that, but if I'm thinking now with a more, I don't know, a more delivery hat on kind of thing. So I believe that whilst, if we have a core team of people who are dedicated and who have the time to actually give some of their time and expertise to this group, then I think that should be enough, because ultimately we come with a vision, with a goal, with an aim, and everything that we're trying to deliver. And we can also start, I don't know. So when we do the mapping, for example, if I look at DAOs, if any of the women in the community, they want to start a DAO of their own, that's their prerogative to do so. But we as a group, we have a specific target in mind, which is we have a community, we can make it a membership, and then we can do certain things within that. So I think from that point of view, it's kind of clear, because we are not going to be an investment DAO. We are not going to be a social club DAO. We are not going to be a, you know, so I'm kind of trying to think right now, when you do that mapping, because I did see your mapping document on your website. When you do that mapping, do we really need to go through the steps of, oh, do you want to be an investment DAO? Because we're not going to be an investment DAO.
So I think what the bigger pie wants to be, I think that's one of the things that needs to get pinpointed and clarified throughout this process. I think it's pretty clear that you're not going to be an investment DAO. However, I think it's also important for the whole community to have full alignment on what you are actually and what you want to be.
Alignment you will never ever get. Okay, that is an ideology, and 100% nobody is ever going to, you know, that's why there are so many DAOs out there, and ultimately you look for the community that you align most with, but 100% alignment I could never find.
I think it's at least worth having a conversation around, sorry, I just think it's worth having a conversation around, because I think most people who are drawn to the bigger pie are drawn, as you said, for similar reasons. I do think it's worth having a conversation around like how we would prioritize those. I know that the document that Bridget had worked so hard on had a bunch of different ideas about how we could leverage the power of these women to help each other. And even if it's not a question of, you know, we're not an investment DAO, we're kind of doing our own thing. I think even in terms of like prioritizing that might be helpful. And I think it might also help folks realize like, oh, this is something that we're not, which I think could be nice. And then I think part of the thing I think that will also happen is it'll give people a sense of ownership, even if they're not in like the initial 10, but then when you open up the conversation to the broader group, like I think it might keep people more engaged if they feel like they had more of a say in how the DAO became a DAO, shall we say, versus not. Does that
Yeah, I understand that. Guy.
Like a fine line. Yeah.
Yeah, so Guy, you've got your hand raised. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to butt in after like the conversation, and so I will ask your opinion, Nicholas, afterwards, because I am right now like helping 4,000 female-led membership group. They want to turn into a DAO, but it's very different profile than us. Like they don't know what a DAO is, which will probably be harder. And so I will ask after, like, what do you think of this approach? The approach I have suggested is like, it's already a membership DAO, and it could like, there are so many different things that they can do within the community as us. Like it could be investment, it could be grants, it could be helping like female startups as a female-led community too. So the approach we're taking is like, instead of like asking, start with a membership DAO, because you're already one, there's no tokenomics. It's just like, here is this thing, and then you can vote. And that kind of like helps people to like get into the way of working as a DAO. And even like what you can do next, then that could be the voting. Like we could ask, instead of us like kind of talking before, the DAO can be the mechanism of to understand their roadmap, whether they want to do like grants to the students afterwards, whether they want to invest in startups, whether they want to pull the treasury so they can buy NFTs, whatever that is. And do you think like that will be a suitable approach for us as well? Because I think like if we say like, what do we want? Like it will be very defocused, and we probably like want all of them. But it's not necessarily, you know, like we are not also 4,000 people at the moment. There has to be like this kind of like flow into the DAO. So my suggestion was that like, let's do it, and then we'll like in very like simplest term with the implementation of membership, one token, one vote, no tokenomics. Like it's already a membership thing anyways, everyone knows what it is. And then I was suggesting like, yeah, we do the DAO as this like the membership DAO as the top, and then there will be sub DAOs based on like what people want. So the decision might be like, maybe not everyone is going to invest, or maybe not everyone is a female entrepreneur, but then there can be sub DAOs to it. So do you think like this application could also be applicable to us with the like members that we are in? instead of
I
like,
would say
I think we will not
it's
be able to come to a conclusion in the end, even if we do like a 2-week, 3-week research.
I would say it's highly
That is my
dependent on.
concern also, to be honest with you. My only concern is I want to be inclusive. I want to give people a voice. I do want people to have a vote or a saying in future initiatives and everything that we're doing. But ultimately, it has to start from somewhere, because everybody will have all sorts of ideas, all sorts of things. And we can't, you see, we will only build hopes that we can do what everybody wants, and it's not going to be possible.
So the reason for why we are picking 10 here is because it's a fine line, right, between including the whole community and setting a direction. And whether this is needed for the community that you speak about, Gaia, is whether or not you already have a clear direction and you have, you know, all the stuff that we want to go through. And it's just easier when it's less, right? And usually you have a core team of contributors that conducts these community calls, tells the other people, you know, what are we doing at the moment, and then you make work stream from that, and then you can become more influential. The more you work in the community, you can actually become a part of the core as well, and you can even, you know, the whole idea here is, in the end, you take the core team. It's there's so much clarity that you don't even need the core team anymore. The whole community is working as one big organism, doing all the tasks, doing exactly what they feel like, with the right incentive structures and so on. Again, it's a long way, and there's a long process for that. It just takes, so it's a matter of clarity. And usually it's best to start with the core and then decentralize out from that in order to make more effective decision making and you know, set a clear direction. But again, it also boils down to homework and how this homework is being conducted and all of this. So do you have anything to add on?
Yeah, I think this is a lot of the stuff we would touch on, both through the kind of pre-survey before we even started any of the workshops or any of the guidance, just to see kind of what mechanisms are already in place when it comes to governance and voting, or if there are any within the community, and then how the bigger pie would like to proceed on having these decisions made, and the access to the workshop. So that's something we can also work with there as well, if in the initial sort of kickoffs is how to set up the best government structure now to help make those decisions on the community level and the core team level. So in that particular instance, we would just kind of move around the structures of these workshops, and that's the intention anyway, to look at the materials that are there and then to modify the placing and the stress to fit the needs that we see in the decisions that need to be made.
I have a very quick question. When you say that there are 10 people, can those 10 people be rotating?
Yeah, so the 10 people is just not to let the workshops get out of hand. Because once you start getting more than 10, it gets, you know, it can get a bit more difficult over the digital platform. So yes, I have no problem with it rotating. Yeah, exactly.
If someone is better at, you know, some other topic compared to other ones, and you're more passionate about this field, of course, it can make sense.
As well as to give everybody a fair chance to attend as well. And we would also recommend that these are supplemented, not just this, you know, once a week we do an hour, but that there'd be a separate community call done by the community to go through and to show the learnings of the workshop and to increase the information and the buy-in from the community, and to get more ideas in there and to collectively come up with, you know, what are the right answers to the questions that need to be answered to bring the community to the next step to becoming a DAO. So they're not kind of standalone sessions. So it's of course fine if people rotate through them, because I know there will be people who are more technical who want to be on the technical calls and more into, you know, mandates and messaging. So it's just making sure that those are accessible, but also that nothing's ever closed in the workshops that we're doing. They're of course meant to be shared with the rest of the community on another call.
I am like, this is maybe like I'm too much in this headspace. Like, so I will state a proposal and like throw me like what could be negative about this. I think the workshops and like kind of what we want to do, like let's look at like a kind of a learning by doing approach. Like, what if we start the DAO with like, no, the governance structure is easy, membership, 1 token, 1 vote, like very easy. And we decide like what we want to do, workshops, and what is the roadmap after. What would be the drawback, or what would be like a negative of this approach if we just start with like a very like, maybe I am oversimplifying, but like that governance would be like whoever has the token is 1 vote, and like we kind of go from like a simple structure of acceptance where it's like half of the token holders voted and 70% is positive, it's a pass, like very simple one. And that would mean like we maybe like don't necessarily have a visibility of what the end result is, but like we learn by doing, and then the workshops come after. What would be a negative or drawback of this approach?
I can just speak from my experience. I think trying to not only build the car as you're driving it, but then also decide where you're going is very difficult. You know, I was just thinking about that project I was working on with you, Bridget, where we were trying to figure out the governance rules, and we hadn't decided on what they were by the time we came to, and there was only 9 people, like it wasn't a big group, but it was certainly more than, 2 or 3. And we said, oh, we're just going to jump in. It's going to be common sense. And then someone couldn't make a meeting. Everybody else voted that we were going to do something else. And we said, like, majority rules, this is what we're going to do. And then that person was like, hey, wait a minute, I'm very upset about this. So I just worry that, like, without having some time to figure out where we're going and having a mechanism to decide that with the group, and then also what the voting rules are. I mean, you just said, well, 1 token, 1 vote, and if it's 70%, then it passes. Is that 70% of all the members? Is that 70% of people who voted? Like, and then I think being able to have something that people can opt into and say, like, this is the vision of this group. These are the rules of the road. Then people can opt into that. I just think that would make it so much easier. I worry that we'll sort of collapse in on ourselves if we don't do some of the structure in the beginning, but I'd love to hear your perspective.
There's already a lot of discussion, and this is actually what we seek to clarify during this approach. This is just one topic of many that we would like to guide on, and this is like why we are making this, because based on the last meeting that we had, we felt like it could be useful, which is why we spent time making this for you guys. So I think this whole discussion is sort of confirming the points that we're trying to outline. And again, we are just facilitating the discussion and pinpointing what is needed to be done, trying to guide this road in a user-centric fashion to a point where we can go closer to not only a DAO deployment through the correct tool, but also if that's what we conclude during this process, it can be a fundraising or it can be something else. There's many routes this can take, and it's about including the community in the correct way. And a lot of these things would not only be clarified during the workshop process, but also as homeworks. Like, we actually do require a full community engagement here.
So one of my other questions is, from the list of projects that I would like to see the Bigger Pie do, we also agreed on the last call that we need to understand which one of those would be good in a DAO and which one of those would be prepared to be centralized. Is that something that we need to do before we were to engage you, or is that something that you can help us go through as part of the engagement?
It's either. It's whatever you would prefer to make those decisions. We can also help guide those, especially if they're going into the realm of tokenomics or business models, which would be quite closely tied. because some of these things will migrate more clearly into that type of structure, where some of them maybe more kind of soft consensus approach would be better, or maybe not a DAO at all. But we could also explore structures such as, sub DAOs and sub, entities within the main DAO as well, to conduct those projects. But it's all about organization.
So, and this is where I'm interested in speaking with those with more knowledge than me, which isn't much when it comes to DAOs, is, so if we have, I'm imagining a DAO with sub DAOs, some of the work we want to do won't be good in a DAO, some of it will, but the sustainability of it all. So when we're also looking at the treasury, I mean, the treasury is different to the tokenomics. I'm not sure if we want I don't understand how to do this. So these are my, I don't know what the answers are, questions. We want to be self-sustaining. We know that some of the activities like placing, recruitment placement will generate income and fees that can then feed back into the bigger pie. If that was a sub DAO, then I wouldn't want that sub DAO to hold all of that. Yay, well, in this sub DAO, we're self-sufficient, and every other sub DAO in the ecosystem has to figure out what they're doing. So don't necessarily, if it's going to be a membership without any concern about the price point of the token, so we don't have any buy or sell pressure in there, it can be more about your participation and your activation and voting. Then what happens when you do create income generating activity, and where does that go?
Yeah, so a lot of these questions I've noticed actually goes into the workshop itself. Many of these questions regarding treasury and how do we manage these things and so on, it's actually already a point that we wish to go into and dive deep into in order to make these to clarify these things. What I feel at the moment is that we're trying to commence the workshop before we even agree that we should have one.
Yeah. So I'm asking these questions not to get the answers, but to say these are all the problems that we need to raise up so that we can collectively say, do we know what we want to do? Do we have some ideas on what we're doing? And then once we finish the call, we kind of know what you're going to guide us through that. I get that bit. I'm not asking you to answer those questions. I'm just saying to everyone on the call, here's some questions that I don't know the answers to. So we can assess afterwards how many people might have answers and how much we need guidance on.
It makes sense. What I would recommend is that because we do want to customize this, right? So we dive deep into where it's most needed. And of course, if that can be done from the start, it would be more effective. But otherwise, we should do a quick mapping first and see where is it most needed. I think it's clear that some of this can be useful. So I would like to discuss sort of the next steps from here, because we are 5 minutes over time, and we have another meeting in 20 minutes, but we can easily stay for like 10 more minutes. 15 more minutes. It's just a matter of what else we need to discuss. I think it's at least from my side, I can see that there is that this can be useful, and I would like to see what is the next steps we will do from here.
Cool. I'm because I want to talk to everyone and get their feedback about what the next steps are. We'll look to get that clarity after this call. But what I do want is, in the same way that I've asked questions that I think we need to understand, is give Alex and Adenka, if you have any questions as well, feel free to join us. For Veronica and Gaia, just to say, okay, so here are some ideas. We don't know all the answers, but these are things that we're considering, and then we can sort of process that afterwards. So Alex, would you like to add anything else that you think that we should
No, I don't think so. I think next steps on our side are pretty clear. I really liked the proposal. I thought it was really interesting. I think we need to have a chat about how it's going to be most effective to work with you guys. Like Bridget said, there's some certain things that we'd like to get out of the workshops, and the extent to which we can help you customize them, I think would just be really helpful. And then I think just on our side, we also need to understand how we're going to approach this with the community, and let them know that this is what we're going to be doing and kind of why and blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
So the next steps from us, let's say we decide to do this, will actually help doing this as well, because the first one is preparing the embarking of the DAO, preparing for this journey, where we will send out a survey where we will evaluate and see exactly where should we focus based on that as well. On top of
Amazing.
That. All right.
Veronica, is there anything else you wanted to add? Sorry, Alex, had you finished?
No. Okay.
So is there any other question regarding the contract itself? Anything that we need to go through before we proceed?
I think the offering is clear. We just need to decide amongst ourselves what our next steps are, and I appreciate that question. Thank you. Veronica, is there anything else that you want to bring up on this call?
Thank you so much for like detailing and for your time.
You too. It was a pleasure.
I'm not sure if Veronica's frozen.
She seems a bit frozen, yeah.
Seems a bit frozen, yeah. Adienka, would you like to?
Can you hear me?
Little bit broken.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay, so I think we'll be able to contest it, and like it was said before, we need to just create a structure and then come up with a clear objective for the DAO, and then we'll be able to move forward.
Okay, well, it's really struggling to hear you. I heard come up with an objective for the DAO, but I'm afraid I didn't get the rest of it. So yeah, if you want to drop it in the DAO strategist Telegram, or drop it if you want it to be answered on this call, if you want to drop it into the Zoom chat, that would be great. Veronica, welcome back.
Thank you. Sorry, I got lost over here for whatever reason. Everything was stuck. So, well, I think that before we embark in this on this journey, we should first set our direction. I understand the workshops and everything. I think that it can be helpful. What I do try to avoid is okay, I'm considering also, okay, we have to think as a community, how do we fund this? Okay, that's a very fair question. Okay, so how are we going to do this if we do engage you? Because ultimately we have to think of the financial side of things. We have to consider what is the direction, because I really don't want to spend months learning about all the possible DAOs ever. I can do that. I'm self-learned, I'm a self-student. I like to learn, so I can do that on my own spare time. So but I want to, so see, my problem is this. I want to start doing things. I'm a very action-driven person and hands-on person, rather than someone who likes to sit for hours and learn, listen to explanations and stuff. Also, I think that we have to ask the community first if they want to be involved, if they, give a couple of suggestions in terms of directions before we start this process with you, and then we take it from there. That's my suggestion. Because right now engaging with you and looking for a needle in a haystack is not going to help neither you nor us.
Yeah, and I also don't believe that is what we're doing. I believe we're here to help create clarity and help guide you guys through this process, being professionals, having worked with this and having done a methodology on it. I have a last question from my side. Being like a business developer guy, I would like to know when could we expect like some answer from you guys on whether or not we can embark, because we are going into this new phase where we are trying to timeline the next three months, and the bigger pie is very high up on the list of communities that we would like to timeline in. But it does require we get some sort of a clear answer as soon as it's possible, of course.
Well, as you know, getting a clear answer from a community rather than one or two individuals is a little bit more difficult. Yeah. But I mean, as Veronica said, we want to take action, and we want to move as swiftly as possible. So, I mean, I would love to say within a week, but realistically, based on how long it's taken for other feedback to come through on that document that I did, I mean, we've had we've had a number of responses, but it's taken 2 weeks for people to have a chance to have a look at that. So if we are going to engage with the community and allow them that space and time, I would say within 2.5 weeks would be a fairer timeline to realistically have chance to get those who are interested to give their feedback. Does anyone else on the call have a strong opinion against that?
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That's completely fine. It should be stated that, of course, we're looking into commencing these things as soon as we can in terms of the timelining of it, because we do have a lot of traffic at the moment that would like to sort of go through this process as well. And at the moment we cannot really take upon so many because we're not scaling yet. So we're actually looking for around 4 to 5 communities to take in as of this point.
Cool.
And yeah, we will reserve a spot for 2.5 weeks.
Okay, and if we have an answer sooner, then we will of course let you know.
That'll be appreciated.
And Charlotte's got some visibility on the communications within the.
I do, yeah, I'm in the channel.
Yeah, so you won't be blind whilst we do.
No.
Wonderful. All right, then. Well, thank you so much. We have gone more than the half an hour that was scheduled in, so I appreciate everyone for sticking on for that. Thank you very much, both of you, for showing up once again and putting the proposal together. We all do very much appreciate it, and we'll be back to you within 2.5 weeks.
All right, great.
Thanks, then. Bye.
See you.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone else, for being here too.